When people think of the Bible, they think of peace. They think of parables, prophecy, faith, and forgiveness. But the Bible is also a battlefield. Its pages are filled with war cries, last stands, and warriors whose names carried weight long before they stepped onto the field. These were not reckless men chasing glory. They were feared, not just because they could fight, but because they would not break. Let's uncover the most feared warriors in the Bible, some well-known, others almost forgotten. Benaiah, the man who chased a lion. Scripture gives only a few lines to describe him, but those few lines are enough to define a legend. Benaiah, one of King David's mighty warriors. It says he chased a lion into a pit on a snowy day. Pause and imagine that. A lion is already a symbol of dominance and raw power. Now picture it cornered in a confined space. Add freezing air, slippery ground, no room to maneuver. Most men would avoid that fight. Benaiah pursued it. He descended into the pit and killed the lion. That alone would secure his reputation. But there is more. He later faced an Egyptian warrior described as impressive in size and armed with a spear. Benaiah carried only a staff. Instead of keeping distance, he closed it. He overpowered the man, seized the spear from his hands, and killed him with his own weapon. That is not desperation. That is dominance. It is no surprise that Benaiah would later command David's personal guard. When kings needed protection, they chose the man who ran toward lions. That is fearlessness, and that is why his enemies feared him. Shammah, the man who refused to yield. Now imagine a battlefield where the odds are not in your favor. The Philistines advance. Seasoned fighters, organized, aggressive. The Israelite troops begin to retreat. Panic spreads. But one man does not move. His name was Shammah. The ground he stood on was not a fortress, not a treasure vault, not a strategic mountain pass. It was a field of lentils, a simple crop field. To most, it was not worth dying for, but to Shammah, it was ground that would not be surrendered. As others fled, he stood alone in the center of that field. When the enemy charged, he met them. Scripture tells us he defended that field and struck the Philistines down until victory came, alone. He did not fight because he had superior numbers. He fought because he refused to give ground. And sometimes the most feared warriors are not the ones who attack first, but the ones who cannot be pushed back. The mighty men, warriors of relentless resolve. David surrounded himself with warriors hardened by conflict. They were known simply as the mighty men. Among them was Josheb-Basshebeth. He is recorded as killing hundreds of enemy soldiers in a single encounter. Not over a campaign, not across years, in one engagement. Imagine the exhaustion, the chaos, the relentless assault. And yet he did not fall. Then there was Eleazar. In the heat of battle, when the Israelite army began to retreat, Eleazar remained. He stood his ground and fought the enemy until his hand froze to the sword. He had fought so long, so relentlessly, that his muscles locked around the weapon. He physically could not let go. Victory that day did not come from numbers. It came from endurance. These were not reckless berserkers. They were disciplined, hardened, and unshakable. When enemies heard that David's mighty men were present, morale shifted before the first clash of steel. Fear travels faster than armies, and these men carried it with them. Samson, strength blessed by God. Perhaps no warrior in the Bible is more physically intimidating than Samson. But Samson's power was not self-made. It was a blessing from God. From birth, he was set apart as a Nazirite. His strength was not simply muscle, it was divine empowerment. Scripture says that when a lion attacked him, the Spirit of the Lord came upon him, and he tore the lion apart with his bare hands. No sword, no shield, just strength granted from above. Later, when surrounded by 1,000 Philistine soldiers, Samson picked up the jawbone of a donkey, and he fought, and he struck them down, 1 man against 1,000. This was not ordinary combat. It was overwhelming force fueled by divine blessing. Cities feared him. Rulers plotted against him. They knew that as long as his strength remained, he could not be contained. When he was finally captured, blinded, and chained, his enemies believed the threat was over. But in his final moments, Samson called upon God once more. Strength returned, and he pushed against the pillars of the temple where he was being displayed as a trophy. The structure collapsed, and he brought it down upon himself and his enemies. Samson was feared because his strength came from something beyond him, and that made him unpredictable. Joshua, the commander who reshaped nations, fear is not always born from brute strength. Sometimes it comes from leadership. Joshua succeeded Moses and led Israel into contested lands filled with fortified cities and organized armies. Under his command, Jericho fell. Coalitions of kings formed in response to his advance, not because they underestimated him, but because they feared what followed him: momentum, conviction, an army unified in belief that their battles were guided by God. Joshua was not a lone fighter. He was a commander whose presence changed the political landscape of an entire region. When word spread that Joshua was approaching, kings did not ignore it. They prepared, because fear of a leader can be more powerful than fear of a single warrior. Michael, the warrior beyond earth. But the Bible does not confine battle to human history. It speaks of a war beyond nations, a war in heaven, and leading that charge is Michael. Described as an archangel and commander of heavenly forces, Michael is portrayed as waging war against the dragon, a symbol of ultimate rebellion. This is not a clash of swords and shields. This is cosmic conflict, light against darkness, order against chaos, and Michael prevails. If earthly warriors inspired fear in armies, Michael represents fear in the unseen realm, the battle beyond flesh and blood. The reminder that in biblical narrative, warfare extends beyond what human eyes can see. Final reflection. So who was the most feared? The lion chaser? The defender of a field? The relentless elite? The God-empowered strongman? The conquering commander? Or the heavenly warrior? Perhaps fear in the Bible was never just about violence. It was about conviction. Every one of these warriors shared something deeper than physical strength. They stood when others fled. They advanced when others hesitated. They believed when others doubted. That is what made them feared. Because true fear does not come from rage. It comes from a person who cannot be moved. And whether you read these accounts as history, legend, or theology, one truth remains. The most feared warriors were not fearless because they felt no fear. They were feared because they refused to surrender to it. If you want to explore more forgotten warriors, hidden histories, and the deeper layers of ancient scripture, subscribe to Timeless Realm. Because history is deeper than we're told, and some battles are still being fought.